Hi there! It's great to see you. Thanks for stopping by today. I really appreciate it. I'm John Merriman, and this is your Tuesday morning guitar song. In his early days, Johnny Cash liked to cultivate the image of being a tough, soft-spoken loner who was walking on the far side of the law, who did a lot of hard time in prison. And soon everybody knew that that was just a stage persona, and really the only real time that Johnny spent in prison was being a performer. But never think that those shows he did in prison didn't have a profound impact on some of the people in the audience. At his famous show at San Quentin Prison in California in 1959, there was a young man watching Johnny Cash that day, a prisoner, and he says watching Johnny Cash did change his life that day. This young man was starting a 15-year prison sentence for grand theft. He had been in and out of the prison system, either juvenile hall, county prison, or state prison, since he was 11 years old. By 18 years old, this young man had already logged 17 prison escapes or prison escape attempts. The jailers at San Quentin thought they had found a keeper. They thought they saw somebody who was just going to keep coming back and back again and probably spend his whole life behind bars. He watched Johnny Cash that day, and he finally saw something that he wanted to become. He wanted to become a free man with that same type of bad boy swagger and do just as well as Johnny Cash was. There was another event in this young man's life that happened soon afterwards that also helped change his life. And that's when he saw one of his good friends, whose nickname was Rabbit, walk his last 100 yards with a guard in front and a guard in back. Rabbit was a dead man walking on his way to the electric chair. And this young man finally saw somebody he wanted to become in Johnny Cash and saw someone he certainly did not want to become in Rabbit. And that helped him change his life. He became a model prisoner, and he got himself out on parole in a couple years, and he headed back to his childhood home of Bakersfield, California. Oh, this young man's name was Merle Haggard. Merle was born in 1937 in Bakersfield, and Merle's father died when he was 9 years old, and that was a big part of the problem. His mother had to go to work, and there was no one there to watch Merle. And Merle ended up getting himself in a bunch of trouble. Soon after his father died, Merle's brother was working at a gas station. And he traded a guy some gas for an old guitar and gave it to Merle. And Merle took to this guitar like a duck on water. He taught himself how to play. He started writing songs. He started developing a really good singing voice. And when he wasn't in the lockup, he was down at Beer Can Hill in Bakersfield. That's where all the honky-tonks were, and that's where the Bakersfield sound was starting to be developed. He was listening to music, and he was playing music with his friends. When he was in the lockup, he was playing with the county prison band, writing songs and singing for them. Well, as I said, in 1961, he got himself out on parole. He headed back to Bakersfield, and he started a band of his own. He started playing inside those honky-tonks on Beer Can Hill, and he started helping develop the Bakersfield sound. He soon caught the eye of a musician by the name of Win Stewart, and Win was a pretty famous guy around that area. Win offered him a job in his band as a bass player, and that band took off to the bright lights of Las Vegas, Nevada, and they spent a couple years there playing music. And it was there in 1965 that Merle Haggard started his backup band called The Strangers, and some of the guys in that band would play with him for the rest of his life. The Strangers soon caught the eye of Capitol Records. They started recording, and the rest is history. They became one of the biggest bands in country music. But early on in Merle's career, he was a man living in constant fear. Now, everybody knew that Johnny Cash was not really an ex-con, but no one knew that Merle Haggard was an ex-con, and he kept it a secret. He didn't want anybody to know because he was deathly afraid that he wouldn't be accepted by the public for being the real thing, for being an ex-con. Well, it was Johnny Cash that entered his life again. Johnny had heard about Merle's fear, and Johnny went to him and he counseled him and he advised Merle to come clean, to tell his total story to the public. Johnny said, "They'll accept you. Just do it." Merle was petrified. He said it was the most frightening thing of his life. But he did come clean. He told his story, and his friends, his family, and his fans all more than accepted him. Merle went on to record 70 albums. That's a heck of a lot. He recorded 600 songs, and he wrote 250 of them. He wrote the truth in his songs, and he had the authority of someone who had been there, and everybody who had heard his music could feel the ring of that truth. He became one of the famous songwriters and singers in country music. He's right up there with Hank Williams. He is a legend. Later on in his life, he moved to Northern California and spent a lot of time on Lake Shasta in his houseboat. And there he died in 2016. And the world will always remember Merle Haggard. And today, he is the topic of your Tuesday morning fun fact. Here's your Tuesday morning fun fact. My daughter was almost born in the back of our old Ford Aerostar van here on a freeway in California trying to get to the hospital. And I was reading on the internet the other day about a baby being born in a commercial airliner in midair. And we've all heard about a city bus driver somewhere who's delivered a baby in the back of a city bus. But I think the award for being born in the most interesting form of conveyance has to go to Merle Haggard. He was born in a boxcar. His family was pushed out of Oklahoma by the Dust Bowl and the fact that their farm had burned down, and they traveled to the hard-bitten town of Bakersfield, where you could maybe find a job in the oil field or working in a factory. You could maybe find a job, but chances are you're not going to find a place to live. So they moved in to an abandoned boxcar, and that's where Merle was born. The interesting part of this is that they ended up buying that boxcar, fixing it up, and making it their home. And that's where Merle spent a good part of his childhood. If he wasn't in the lockup, he was living in his boxcar. He was one of the original boxcar children. And that's your Tuesday morning fun fact. Let's go back to 1968, Merle Haggard and the Strangers. I turned 21 in prison, doing life without parole. Please don't go away. I'll be right back. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I really appreciate it, and I have a great time, and it's always so wonderful to see you. Please come back and see me next week. And if you like the show, hit the like button, like the page if you're watching on Facebook, and please share it on your social media if you would be so kind, because you are my word of mouth, and we are a total word of mouth operation. I'll see you next week, and remember, you're never ready for your day without a song in your heart. Bye now.